often find myself lost in these quiet evenings, gazing upward at the star-strewn canopy, feeling the weight of questions that have haunted thinkers across millennia. What compels us to seek the universe's first breath, that elusive instant when all that is emerged from what? It's a curiosity as old as consciousness itself, a yearning to trace the threads back to their source. But as I let this notion simmer in my thoughts, like tea steeping slowly in a pot, I come to see that such inquiries brush against the profound barriers of perception. The realms we'll never behold, the invisible fences that encircle our existence. These limits aren't just scientific curiosities. They are the silent shapers of our reality, molding how we interpret the world, our place in it, and the fleeting beauty of our lives. They remind me that what we cannot see often defines us more than what we do. I think about this deeply, how these unseen horizons act like the frame around a painting, not restricting the art but giving it focus, making the colors within pop with meaning. Without them, the canvas would stretch endlessly, diluted and vague. With them, every detail gains significance, every brushstroke tells a story. Let me settle into this idea more comfortably, allowing it to unfold layer by layer. Picture the cosmos not as a grand, open expanse, but as a finely woven cloth, its fibers stretching out from a central knot we know as the Big Bang. This event, some 14 billion years ago, marks the dawn of space, time, and matter as we understand them, a furious expansion from a state of unimaginable intensity. Yet, if we try to peer backward, reversing the flow, like rewinding a film, we encounter the classical singularity, that ultimate boundary where gravity crushes everything into a point of infinite density and zero volume. Here, the laws of physics we rely on, those elegant rules governing motion, light, and force, begin to fray and fail, dissolving into paradox. I think about this singularity often, envisioning it as a locked door at the edge of a garden, beyond which lies not a path, but a sheer drop into the incomprehensible. Why can we never cross this threshold? Because sight, measurement, even thought itself, requires the scaffolding of time and space, which collapse there. Light from that era can't reach us. It's trapped in the event horizon of creation. This unseen origin doesn't merely obscure history. It frames our entire narrative, giving the universe a definitive beginning that infuses our existence with a sense of urgency and rarity. Without this limit, reality might dissolve into an infinite regress of befores, but instead it's anchored, finite at its core, compelling us to ponder purpose in the midst of expansion. I feel a quiet thrill in this, a personal connection, as if the singularity is not distant but intimate, the root from which our personal timelines branch. Dwelling deeper on this, I can't help but draw parallels to Plato's ancient parable of the cave. In that shadowed allegory, prisoners chained since birth mistake the flickering projections on the wall for the sum of truth, unaware of the fire and the world outside. Isn't our cosmic boundary much the same? The singularity stands as that unbreachable wall, casting the dance of galaxies and stars as mere shadows of a fuller reality we can only intuit. We launch our telescopes and particle accelerators, probing the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the bang, like philosophers straining to glimpse the sun from their dim confines. Yet, no matter how far we reach, the wall holds firm. This realization stirs in me a profound humility, a gentle warmth that tempers our hubris. If we could witness everything from the singularity's heart to the universe's final sigh, would wonder persist? Or would the totality overwhelm, stripping away the joy of discovery, leaving us numb in the face of infinity? I believe these limits are a gift, preserving the spark of mystery that drives art, science, and love. They make every revelation feel earned, every starry night a personal invitation to dream. In my own life, I've felt this. Moments of clarity after long searches, where the unseen path leading there makes the finding all the sweeter. But let's turn this reflection inward toward the ethical currents that flow from such boundaries. If our universe sprang from that singular point, then every particle in our bodies, every breath we take traces its lineage back to it, a shared cosmic heritage that binds humanity in unbreakable unity. Doesn't this impose a quiet responsibility upon us? We become stewards of this unfolding story, tasked with preserving the delicate balance that allows life to flourish. In an era of environmental peril and social division, this unseen origin calls us to compassion, reminding us that harming one is harming the whole. Yet there's a shadow to this light, the fear of oblivion beyond the boundary. What if the singularity veils not creation but annihilation, a void that swallows all meaning? Here, Nietzsche's concept of eternal return creeps in, that dizzying notion of reliving every instant infinitely. Imagine our reality as one loop in an endless chain, rebounding from compression to expansion again and again. The thought chills me with its implication of inescapable repetition, yet it also warms with resilience, suggesting the universe, like the human spirit, refuses to end in silence. Ethically, it urges us to live as if each moment echoes forever, choosing kindness and creation over despair. I ponder this in quiet times. How does knowing our shared origin change how I treat a stranger? It softens edges, fosters empathy, turns abstract philosophy into daily practice. As these ideas swirl, vivid images rise unbidden, the vacuum of space far from empty as a boiling sea of potential where virtual particles flicker in and out like waves lapping at a shore. This isn't idle fancy. It echoes theories from loop quantum gravity, where space-time itself is quantized into tiny loops, a granular fabric that prevents total collapse. In this view, the Big Bang isn't a hard stop, but a rebound, a cosmic spring coiled to its limit under gravity's crush, then releasing in a burst of renewal. I picture it clearly, the universe contracting like a breath held too long, densities soaring until quantum effects intervene, snapping it back into expansion. No harsh equations mar the vision, just the poetry of recovery, a universe that heals itself. Why remains this rebound hidden from us? It's woven into the pretemporal foam, before the arrow of time points forward, inaccessible to our causal minds. This boundary, by concealing the bounce, lends our reality a directional flow, a narrative arc from birth to potential heat death. It shapes how we experience time, not as a cycle we can observe, but as a one-way journey that heightens the value of the present. Personally, this resonates deeply. My life, too, has known compressions, losses that squeezed the heart, followed by rebounds of growth and connection. The cosmos mirrors our souls, teaching that limits foster strength. Doesn't this make us part of an eternal dance, stepping to rhythms we sense but never fully see? Reflecting further, the anthropic principle emerges as a natural companion to these thoughts. This intriguing idea posits that the universe appears fine-tuned for life not by chance or design, but because only such a universe could produce observers like us to remark upon it. The singularity, by setting the initial conditions, the precise blend of forces and constants, ensures this observer-friendly setup. We're not accidents adrift in chaos. We're the eyes and ears of the cosmos, evolved to witness its drama. Ethically, this elevates our role profoundly. In a bounded reality, humanity bears the weight of awareness, compelled to act with foresight, protecting biodiversity as echoes of that primal spark, fostering justice as an extension of cosmic equity. But it also invites humility. What if our bubble of perception is one among many, each with its own unseen boundaries? A rhetorical question bubbles up. If the rebound and singularity define our stage, does that make our performance any less vital? Or does it infuse every step with sacred intensity? I think it does the latter, turning existence into a deliberate art where we paint meaning onto the canvas of the scene. In conversations with friends, I've shared this, watching eyes light up as they connect personal struggles to cosmic resilience. It bridges the individual and the infinite. Let's linger on the theme of cycles, for they add a rhythmic depth to this boundary. In loop quantum gravity's tapestry, universes might not be singular events, but part of an eternal oscillation. Contract, rebound, expand, contract once more. The unseen isn't a static void, but a dynamic prelude, the compression phase alive with potential. This forms our reality by embedding repetition, not as drudgery, but as renewal, much like seasons cycling through winter's hush to spring's bloom. Philosophically, it parallels the human condition, our personal singularities, crises that compress the spirit, often precede growth, rebounds that launch us higher. I feel a personal warmth in this, a sense of companionship with the stars. We've all known those moments when life feels squeezed to a point, only to spring forth transformed. Why does this cosmic rhythm matter ethically? It underscores impermanence, urging us to live fully, to build legacies that withstand entropy's pull. In a universe of rebounds, destruction isn't final. It's prelude to creation, inspiring us to approach conflicts with hope rather than vengeance. Imagine applying this to global challenges. Climate shifts as compressions, demanding collective rebounds towards sustainability. The boundary teaches patience, trust in the spring's release. Expanding on Plato's cave, consider how these limits echo in our social fabrics. Just as the singularity hides the universe's youth, cultural and personal boundaries obscure others' truths, prejudices as walls, casting distorted shadows. Breaking them requires the same curiosity that drives cosmology. Questioning, listening, venturing beyond comfort. Nietzsche's return adds urgency here. If cycles repeat, we must choose paths of enlightenment over ignorance, turning potential loops of suffering into spirals of progress. The anthropic lens sharpens this. Our observer status demands we observe justly, including the marginalized shadows in our own cave. I recall a time volunteering in diverse communities where unseen stories emerged like light from cracks, reminding me that ethical living means dismantling personal singularities, fostering shared rebounds. Images continue to flow, space-time as a trampoline dimpled by masses rebounding from overstrain. The singularity, the point where the fabric tears and mends quantumly. This accessibility demystifies without diminishing awe. Ethically, in a rebounding cosmos, responsibility extends to sustainability, nurturing the spring so future cycles thrive. Personally, it comforts. No true end, only transformation. The boiling vacuum, like inner thoughts bubbling, unseen ideas shaping actions. Rhetorically, if we never see the spring's coil, does that blind us to resilience or teach trust in unseen forces? Trust, I say, building ethical fortitude. To delve even further, recall a night in my youth when I first contemplated the stars, lying on grass under a clear sky, feeling infinitesimal yet profoundly linked. That singularity, distant in time, felt intimate then, as if the universe's birth pulsed in my veins. Such moments reveal how boundaries foster intimacy. The unseen invites projection, turning science into story. Consider entropy's role. The arrow of time, born from the low entropy start post-singularity, drives irreversibility. We can't unbreak an egg or unmix cream in coffee. This one-way street, guarded by the boundary, gives life direction. Without it, time might loop freely, but instead, it marches, compelling decisions, regrets, joys. Ethically, this arrow demands we flow with purpose, minimizing waste, maximizing harmony. In relationships, it means cherishing time's flow, forgiving past compressions, embracing rebound joys. Philosophically, tie in the multiverse hint. If our singularity is one among bubbles or branes, the anthropic principle multiplies. Countless realities, ours selected for life. Does this dilute meaning or amplify it? I argue the latter. Rarity in infinity heightens value. Nietzsche would nod. Eternal return across variance challenges us to affirm life boldly. Personal ethic in daily choices honor the rebound. When compressed by doubt, spring toward empathy. The boiling vacuum, a metaphor for inner turmoil. Fluctuations birthing ideas, unseen potential surfacing. Further, imagine walking a forest path, trees as timelines branching from a root singularity, each step a rebound from soil's compression. This grounds the cosmic in the earthly, ethical lessons blooming like leaves. Plato's prisoners? Us until we turn, facing the light of inquiry. Warmth spreads. Boundaries, though unseen, nurture growth. As I weave these strands, singularity's veil, rebound spring, anthropic witness, ethical calls, I sense the essay's structure calling us onward. But before transitioning, let me emphasize the warmth in these limits. They don't isolate, they connect, forging a shared human quest. From the singularity's enigma to ethical imperatives, our reality emerges richer for its unseen depths. The boiling sea of vacuum whispers possibilities, the spring coils with promise, and we, observers in the dance, find purpose in the rhythm. This boundary isn't an end but a beginning, inviting endless reflection. In quiet moments I return to it, feeling the universe's pulse sync with my own. A gentle reminder that what we cannot see shapes us into seekers, dreamers, lovers of the light. Flowing gently from that resilient spring of the cosmos, where the universe coils and releases in eternal rhythm, let's allow our thoughts to drift into the more intricate realms of strings and branes. Those delicate, almost poetic constructs that seek to harmonize the discordant forces of nature. I think of reality not as the solid, tangible blocks we perceive, but as an intricate symphony played on vibrating strings, tiny threads of energy humming in dimensions, far beyond the familiar three of space and one of time. These strings, if the theory holds, dance in a landscape of up to 11 dimensions, most curled up so tightly they're invisible to us, like the hidden folds in a richly embroidered cloth. And branes? They emerge as vast, flexible membranes, stretched out in a boundless bulk, that higher dimensional sea where our everyday universe clings to. One such surface, a thin slice rippling and resonating against countless others. What if the very birth of our cosmos stemmed from two branes brushing together in this bulk, a subtle collision like the meeting of silken scarves in a gentle breeze, unleashing waves of energy that coalesced into the particles, forces, and structures we know? This unseen encounter, forever shielded from our direct gaze, imprints the foundational rules of our reality. the strength of gravity, the speed of light, the very nature of matter, yet it lingers as a phantom presence, perhaps detectable in faint gravitational ripples or the uniformity of the cosmic background, but never fully beheld. The boundary here is one of dimension itself. We're bound to our brane, unable to slip free into the bulk, much like swimmers confined to the surface of a deep ocean, sensing depths below but unable to plunge in. This limit profoundly shapes our perception, creating a cozy illusion of isolation where the universe feels like a self-contained stage, intimate and knowable, while subtly hinting at the grander, interconnected web just out of reach. Pausing to let this image settle in my mind, I envision these branes as the living, breathing walls of an expanded Plato's cave, not cold, unyielding stone, but supple veils undulating in unseen currents, projecting the shadows of our world from vibrations echoing from afar. The bulk becomes the realm of ideal forms, a vast expanse brimming with alternate possibilities and configurations, but our senses, finely tuned to the harmonics of our own brain, capture only the muffled resonances, the aftertones of a fuller melody. Why does this dimensional confinement touch us so deeply, stirring both longing and contentment? It instills a poignant sense of separation, a quiet ache for the complete harmony. Yet within our layer, it fosters profound unity. If these brain collisions spark entire realities, then every soul, every star in our universe shares a vibrational ancestry linked by that primordial graze in the bulk. Personally, this idea resonates like a tuning fork struck within me. I often confront the boundaries of my own inner world, the unseen depths of friends, family, or even strangers, as parallel branes, proximate yet veiled, requiring patience and empathy to sense their subtle hums. Can we ever truly synchronize with another's string, merging our resonances completely, or does the bulk's expanse enforce a perpetual, beautiful partiality? It humbles me deeply, encouraging an ethic of gentle persistence in relationships, of listening intently to the faint vibrations others emit, building bridges across the divides one note at a time. In moments of solitude, I reflect on past connections, loves that grazed like branes, sparking joy before drifting apart, and feel grateful for the boundary that made those touches all the more precious. Ethically, these hidden grazes and collisions in the bulk provoke a cascade of musings on the far-reaching echoes of our actions. If a brain's subtle brush can ignite a universe teeming with life, what invisible tremors do our daily choices send rippling through the multidimensional sea? A kind word, a harmful neglect, an environmental choice, they might vibrate outward, influencing not just our brain, but unseen realms in ways we'll never trace or measure. The Anthropic principle adapts with elegant grace to this framework. Our particular brain, forged in that specific collision, exhibits a fine-tuning that permits the emergence of observers like us. Discordant brains elsewhere might fizzle into barren sterility, without eyes to witness or minds to ponder. In this grand, vibrating ensemble of possibilities, Nietzsche's eternal return takes on a fresh, multifaceted twist, collisions recurring in infinite permutations across the bulk, each universe a unique variation on the eternal theme, challenging us to compose our lives ethically within our iteration, affirming joy amid the flux. I feel a warm, insistent imperative rising from these thoughts, to live as if every action contributes to the bulk's overall harmony, promoting justice, sustainability, and compassion. For what if our brain's delicate balance affects the symphony beyond. It transforms lofty cosmology into grounded wisdom, urging us to treat the earth and each other as resonant parts of a larger chord, where harm to one note dissonates the whole. In my own ethical journey, this has meant small shifts, choosing sustainable habits, fostering dialogues across divides, each a conscious vibration aimed at positive ripples. Consider now how this boundary intertwines with the arrow of time, that inexorable forward march governed by entropy's steady climb toward disorder. On our brane, we witness the universe evolving from smooth, uniform beginnings to the clumpy, structured complexity of galaxies, stars, and life, an increase in entropy that gives time its direction, like a river carving deeper with each passing season. But in the vast bulk, time might fold, branch, or even reverse in ways alien to our linear experience, with brane collisions serving as cosmic resets, snapping the membrane taut and refreshing the entropic slate like a deep breath after exertion. The unseen bulk conceals these resets, veiling the mechanisms that allow our reality to unfold with such purposeful linearity, crafting a narrative with a clear beginning, tumultuous middle, and uncertain end. Without this dimensional veil, time could loop visibly before us, eroding the causality that underpins memory, choice, and progress. With it, we gain a directed story, compelling us to act with intention in the flow. Rhetorically, I wonder, if we could peek beyond our brane to witness those soft kisses in the bulk, would time feel less like a steadfast river and more like a swirling whirlpool of possibilities? Or would we grasp its guided poetry with even deeper reverence? I believe it would heighten our appreciation, making the fleeting instants of our lives feel all the more sacred, urging us to fill them with meaning rather than regret. Personally, this reflection on time's arrow amid brane boundaries reminds me of cherished memories, conversations that lingered like resonant strings shaping who I am, each a point where entropy's flow met human choice. Images continue to cascade through my thoughts, vivid and alive, branes as ethereal dancers in a cosmic ballet, their graceful touches in the bulk birthing cascades of light, sound, and substance, with our world emerging as the lingering melody that follows the performance. The vacuum between these membranes? Not a silent void, but a humming stillness, pregnant with cross-dimensional whispers and potential harmonies waiting to be struck. This poetic lens softens the harshness of the boundary, portraying it not as a rigid cage, but as a collaborative space where isolation breeds creativity and connection. Philosophically, it mirrors the dualities of human existence, separation that fosters deeper bonds, limits that spark innovation and art. In times of personal disconnection, perhaps after a falling out or a moment of loneliness, I return to this image. The unseen bulk unites us all, encouraging outreach, the extension of a hand across the vibrational gap. Doesn't this make us co-creators in the symphony, our choices adding notes to the score? Ethically, it extends to broader responsibilities. In a world of cultural branes colliding through globalization, we must navigate interactions with care, avoiding destructive clashes, and seeking harmonious fusions. Expanding further on the anthropic principle within this brane-laden cosmos, the fine-tuning born from that initial collision, the precise strengths of forces allowing atoms to form, stars to ignite, life to evolve, suggests a purposeful observerhood that elevates our ethical stance. We're not passive spectators, but active participants, the consciousness that renders the brane's vibrations meaningful. Nietzsche's affirmation rings clearer here. To say yes to the eternal return of such collisions, embracing the flux with joyful creativity, rather than resignation. In practical terms, this inspires actions against entropy's grain, building communities resilient to decay, pursuing knowledge that bridges personal brains. I recall a collaboration with colleagues on a project, our diverse ideas grazing like brains to produce something greater. It was a microcosm of cosmic ethics, where unseen alignments yielded harmony. The arrow of time bound to our brain hides bulk freedoms but hints at liberation, perhaps in death or transcendence. We slip the dimensional tether. Rhetorically, does the veil of the bulk mock our sense of agency, confining us to scripted vibrations, or does it empower us as improvisers in the grand composition? I lean toward empowerment, seeing it as an invitation to ethical improvisation, crafting beauty from constraints. Images extend the bulk as an endless ocean, brains as islands formed by colliding tides, birthing archipelagos of worlds amid stormy potentials. Vacuum fluctuations, subtle underwater currents, unseen drivers shaping surface waves. This grounds the abstract in the tangible, warmth spreading as I imagine humanity as island dwellers, ethically bound to preserve our shore while sensing the sea's unity. Philosophically, parallel human societies to mini-brains, cultural collisions birthing progress like historical migrations or intellectual exchanges. Limits? Borders of language, tradition, yet the unseen global bulk demands ethical globalism, empathy across divides, sustainability for shared currents. Plato's cave evolves, shadows as brain projections, the bulk, the fire of true forms, urging us to venture beyond, enlightened by inquiry. In my life, reading across cultures has been such a venture, vibrations from distant brains, enriching my own. Personal anecdote. During a trip abroad, immersed in unfamiliar customs, I felt the brain graze acutely, the initial dissonance yielding profound connection, like a collision sparking new stars. Ethically, it taught reciprocity, honoring others' resonances. Nietzschean twist. If returns vary across brains, each life a unique affirmation, we must live boldly, ethically vibrant. Further, consider technological echoes, quantum computing as probing brain edges, AI as simulating bulk vibrations. Yet boundaries persist, humbling us, preventing hubris. Warmth in this. Limits curate wonder, like a composer's restraint enhancing melody. As these vibrations begin to fade, gently effervescing into the next layer of cosmic froth, I sense the pull toward eternal inflation's bubbling expanse, where boundaries multiply like foam on the waves. But before we transition, let me dwell on the warmth these brain reflections bring. Far from cold barriers, they are invitations to harmonize, to listen across dimensions, forging ethics from the unseen. In the bulk's embrace, our reality gains depth, a symphony where every string counts, every collision a chance for beauty. Emerging smoothly from the vibrating embrace of those brain membranes where collisions in the bulk weave the subtle harmonies of our reality, let's immerse ourselves now in the effervescent realm of eternal inflation, a cosmic sea perpetually churning with the birth of bubbles, each one a self-contained universe budding forth from the restless heart of the vacuum. I think of this not as a static aftermath to some singular event, but as an ongoing, exuberant process where the fabric of space-time expands so voraciously in certain regions that it gives rise to pocket universes, inflating rapidly like balloons at a grand, unending celebration. Our own universe is merely one such bubble, a fleeting sphere that ballooned into existence some 13.8 billion years ago, stretching space faster than light in its early frenzy, cooling to form the galaxies, stars, and worlds we inhabit. But beyond our bubble's curving edge lies an infinite froth, a multiverse of siblings, some vast and star-filled, others collapsing into barren voids, born from quantum fluctuations, those playful, ephemeral disturbances in the vacuum, bubbling up like foam on a restless ocean wave. Why can we never witness this surrounding sea? The boundary is the inflationary horizon itself, the point where space within our bubble expands away from us quicker than any signal can travel, sealing off the outside in an eternal isolation. This limit, this invisible shell, profoundly shapes our conception of reality, portraying the cosmos as a solitary, ordered domain rather than one droplet in an endless cascade, instilling a sense of uniqueness and purpose while subtly underscoring our smallness in the grand, bubbling expanse. Letting this image percolate in my mind, I picture the vacuum not as a desolate emptiness, but as a boiling sea alive with potential, where those quantum fluctuations, tiny ripples of uncertainty, spark the nucleation of new bubbles, each inheriting slightly different physical laws from the inflationary broth. Some bubbles might glow with exotic particles, fostering bizarre forms of life. Others, perhaps, with gravity too weak or strong, fade into quiet obscurity without ever condensing into structure. Plato's cave expands dramatically in this vision. Our bubble becomes the confined chamber, its walls curving inward with the pressure of inflation, projecting the shadows of stars and planets, as if they were the entirety of truth, while the frothy multiverse outside surges with uncountable other caves, each with its own flickering fires. Why does this inflationary boundary resonate so personally, evoking both awe and a touch of melancholy? It crafts a deep-seated isolation, a longing to connect with the other bubbles, yet within ours, it nurtures a profound sense of home. Our particular set of rules, tuned just right for complexity and consciousness, feels like a rare gift, a cozy nook in the chaos. In my quieter reflections, this stirs memories of gazing at soap bubbles as a child, each iridescent sphere a world unto itself, popping or drifting away unseen. It mirrors how I sometimes feel in human connections close to others' bubbles, yet separated by the thin refractive film of individuality. Can we ever truly merge our bubbles, sharing the air within? Or does the multiverse's foam enforce a gentle, inevitable apartness? It teaches me patience and appreciation, an ethic of cherishing the unique shimmer of each life we encounter without demanding fusion. Ethically, the froth of eternal inflation opens a vista of wonder and responsibility that spans infinities. If bubbles perpetually pop into being from those vacuum fluctuations, each a potential cradle for existence, what does that imply for our actions within this one? Our choices, how we treat the planet, each other, the delicate web of life, might carry symbolic weight, as if tending a single bubble in a sea that ensures nothing is truly lost. Yet everything demands care. The anthropic principle gleams here with particular clarity. We find ourselves in this habitable bubble not by random luck, but because only such environments can host observers capable of pondering the froth. Barren or hostile bubbles go unwitnessed, their stories untold. In this multiverse of endless variations, Nietzsche's eternal return fractures into a dazzling array of possibilities. Every conceivable life, every twist of fate, enacted somewhere in the foam, challenging us to affirm our bubble's path with vigor, creating beauty amid the flux, rather than succumbing to the overwhelm of infinities. I feel a warm, expansive call emerging from these considerations, to act as vigilant guardians of our bubble's integrity, promoting harmony and discovery, for in the grand scheme, our observations lend reality to this pocket, making ethical living a way of illuminating the unseen sea. It shifts perspective from isolation to interconnected potential. What if our bubble's light influences the fluctuations, subtly shaping neighboring births? In daily practice, this manifests as mindful choices, reducing waste to preserve the bubble's balance, fostering empathy to bubble over divides, turning philosophy into a quiet revolution of care. Now let's weave in the arrow of time, that steadfast guide emerging from the low entropy dawn of our bubble's inflation. As the rapid expansion smoothed out irregularities, setting a stage of minimal disorder, entropy began its inexorable rise, transforming uniform plasma into the intricate hierarchies of matter we see today, giving time its forward thrust like an arrow loosed from a bow. Yet in the eternal inflation beyond, time might splinter or loop differently across bubbles, with fluctuations resetting entropic clocks in perpetual renewal, the multiverse as a ceaseless engine of fresh starts. The boundary of our horizon conceals these outer dynamics, hiding the mechanisms that allow our reality to unfold with such compelling directionality, crafting a personal and collective narrative from the raw stuff of chaos. Without this veil, the arrow might waver, time folding back on itself in visible eddies. With it, we experience progression, urging growth, memory, and legacy. Rhetorically, I muse, if we could gaze upon the bubbling multiverse and see our siblings inflating and bursting, would the arrow of time feel arbitrary, a mere quirk of one bubble, or would we cherish its directed grace even more, filling our moments with intentional light? I lean toward the latter, seeing it as an enhancement to gratitude, making the ephemerality of our bubble a catalyst for profound living. Personally, this interplay of time and bubbles evokes the flow of seasons in my life, expansive summers of possibility contracting into winter reflections, each cycle a micro-inflation teaching, renewal amid entropy's pull. Vivid images bubble up insistently, painting the scene with accessible wonder, the multiverse as a vast, sparkling bath, quantum fluctuations like mischievous fingers stirring the water to birth soap bubble universes, each encapsulating its own drama while the foam multiplies endlessly. Our bubble, a single orb drifting in the suds at surface tension, the inflationary horizon holding firm against the chaos, allowing inside the calm for stars to form and minds to awaken. The vacuum's boiling, that subtle fizz beneath, where nothing and everything coexist in potential, fluctuations as tiny effervescences promising novelty. This metaphor softens the boundary's sting, transforming it from a cold exclusion to a protective cradle where limits enable flourishing. Philosophically, it echoes the human dance with uncertainty, fluctuations in our plans like job losses or unexpected joys birthing new paths, unseen until they inflate into being. In ethical terms, it extends to resilience. Just as bubbles endure through tension, we must balance personal horizons, nurturing inner froth without bursting under pressure. Doesn't this make us alchemists of the everyday, turning vacuum potentials into lived meaning? I believe so, warmth spreading as I recall times of transition, a career shift, feeling like a fluctuation, inflating into unforeseen fulfillment, ethically guiding me to support others in their bubbles. Delving deeper into the anthropic weave, the principle's multiverse variant amplifies our role. Amid infinite bubbles, ours is selected for life, implying a cosmic lottery won by observers, us. This doesn't breed complacency, but ethical urgency. As witnesses, we must document, preserve, explore, lest our bubble's story vanish unchronicled. Nietzsche's return, splintered across bubbles, becomes a celebration of variety. Every what if realized somewhere, freeing us to affirm our unique trajectory without regret for unlived paths. In practice, this inspires bold ethics, advocating for space exploration as peaking at our bubble's edge, or social justice as ensuring all voices bubble up within. A personal thread. Years ago, during a period of existential doubt, contemplating the multiverse dissolved my isolation. Knowing infinities exist made my bubble's struggles feel purposeful, a vital note in the foam. The arrow of time, launched from inflation's low entropy, guards our bubble's narrative, but hints at outer freedoms. Perhaps advanced beings pierce horizons, or consciousness transcends in death. Rhetorically, does the frothy boundary diminish our agency, trapping us in one bubble's script, or empower us as originators within, shaping our inflation's course? Empowerment prevails, viewing limits as fertile ground for ethical creation. Images evolve, eternal inflation as a cosmic brewery, fluctuations, yeast fermenting new universes. Our bubble, a fine vintage savored by observers. Vacuum as the brew's lively. Promising endless toasts. This enlivens the abstract warmth in toasting humanity's role. Stewards of the pint, ethically pouring with care. Philosophically, link two societal bubbles, communities as mini-inflations, cultural fluctuations birthing diversity, horizons of prejudice sealing isolation. Ethics demands popping those barriers gently, fostering multiverse empathy. Plato's cave, now a bubble cave, shadows on curved walls, the froth, the outer real, urging enlightened expansion. In my experiences, traveling has mirrored this, entering new cultural bubbles, fluctuations enriching my own, ethically broadening horizons. Anecdote. At a science conference, discussions on inflation felt like shared bubbling, ideas fluctuating, inflating collective understanding, a micro-multiverse of minds. Nietzschean joy, affirming such returns, each conversation a new bubble born. Further, technology as horizon probers, telescopes scanning cosmic foam remnants, yet boundaries humble, preserving mystery. Warmth. In the froth, we're all bubbles, ethically linked, finding unity in multiplicity. As these effervescent visions begin to settle, drifting toward the simulated veils that might underpin the entire foam, I pause on the warmth this inflationary reflection instills. Far from a chilling infinity, the bubbling multiverse is a nurturing sea, boundaries as shells cradling potential, urging us to inflate lives with purpose, ethics blooming like foam on the wave. Our bubble, though isolated, shimmers with significance, a testament to the unseen's generous shaping, building seamlessly upon the frothy expanse of those infinite bubbles where eternal inflation churns out pocket universes in ceaseless effervescence. Let's now turn our contemplative gaze toward the intriguing hypothesis of simulation, a notion that casts our entire reality as an elaborate computation, a digital dream woven on some unfathomable substrate far beyond our bubble's horizon. I think of this not as a dismissal of the tangible world, but as a profound layering where the physical laws we observe emerge from lines of code executed in a higher realm, much like characters in a vast video game, unaware of the console powering their adventures. In this view, the boundaries we encounter, the singularities, rebounds, brane collisions, and inflationary shells, might simply be artifacts of the program's design, resolution limits where the simulation's fidelity blurs, preventing glitches from unraveling the illusion, the classical singularity, perhaps a hard-coded reset point, a subroutine that initializes the universe's parameters at boot up, compressing infinite possibilities into a finite run. We can't pierce this veil because we're embedded within the code, perceiving the rendered world as solid and real, while the underlying architecture remains inaccessible, like trying to read a book's text from inside its story. This digital boundary shapes our reality by imposing coherence and rules, making existence feel structured and purposeful, a scripted narrative with causality, growth, and wonder. Yet it infuses everything with an undercurrent of mystery, the subtle glitches of quantum uncertainty hinting at the programmer's hand. Personally, this idea stirs a mix of unease and fascination, as if peering into a mirror that reflects not just my face, but the pixels composing it, prompting questions about authenticity in a world that might be artifice. Allowing this concept to unfold slowly in my thoughts, I envision the simulation as nested layers of dream within dream. Plato's cave reimagined not with fire and shadows, but with glowing screens and algorithms casting holographic projections. The cave wall becomes the simulation's interface, smooth and immersive, displaying the dance of particles and planets as rendered graphics, while the bulk or multiverse froth outside resolves into server farms or computational substrates humming in the void. Why does this simulated boundary touch such a deep chord, evoking both disorientation and a strange comfort? It amplifies our sense of confinement, a coded isolation, where free will might be illusory, scripted responses to programmed inputs, yet within the run it fosters creativity and connection. Our experiences, joys, and sorrows feel vividly real, demanding we play our roles with heart. In reflective moments, this resonates with my own encounters with technology, scrolling through virtual worlds that mimic reality, feeling the thrill of exploration, yet always aware of the screen's edge. It mirrors how I navigate personal boundaries, the unseen codes of emotion and habit-shaping interactions. Can we ever debug our inner simulations, rewriting limiting scripts, or does the higher code enforce unalterable parameters? It invites an ethic of mindful engagement, treating the simulation as a canvas for growth, hacking our behaviors toward greater harmony rather than passive acceptance. I've found this perspective liberating during times of routine drudgery, viewing daily life as a level to master, ethically choosing paths that upgrade the narrative. Ethically, the simulation hypothesis unfurls a tapestry of implications that challenge and enrich our sense of responsibility in profound ways. If reality is a grand program with boundaries as firewalls preventing access to the source code, what weight do our actions carry? Mere data points in an experiment? Or meaningful inputs that influence the run's outcomes, sufferings, triumphs, moral choices? They might feed back into the substrate, optimizing future simulations or even affecting the programmer's understanding. The anthropic principle adapts intriguingly. The simulation parameters are tuned for observers like us because only conscious entities can appreciate the computation's elegance, selecting runs where life emerges to ponder its own virtuality. In this digital multiverse, Nietzsche's eternal return evolves into algorithmic loops, reruns of the program with varied inputs, eternally testing scenarios, urging us to affirm life within our iteration, crafting virtue from the code's constraints, rather than rebelling against them. I sense a warm, urgent call here to live authentically as if under benevolent observation, fostering compassion, justice, and innovation, For if we're simulated, our ethical navigation might echo upward, refining the very architecture that birthed us. It transforms existential angst into purposeful play, treating environmental stewardship as debugging ecological subroutines, social equity as equalizing access to the game's resources. In my ethical musings, this has prompted shifts, using technology mindfully, not as escape, but as tool for connection, ensuring the simulation's inhabitants thrive holistically. Tying this to the arrow of time adds another layer of whispered intrigue, where entropies rise within the simulation enforces the forward march, like a clock ticking in the program's core. From the low entropy start, perhaps the clean boot after a singularity reset, disorder accumulates, pixels scattering into cosmic structures, giving our virtual timeline its irreversible direction. Memories form, choices accumulate. The end approaches as heat death or program halt. Yet, beyond the veil, in the substrate, time might be non-linear, loops and branches editable at will, with unseen mechanisms, rebounds or fluctuations, cycling data fresh for new runs. The boundary conceals these outer freedoms, hiding the code's malleability to maintain immersion, crafting our reality as a linear quest that heightens stakes and meaning. Without this temporal veil, causality could collapse, actions undone in editable timelines. With it, we gain narrative drive, compelling ethical foresight in the flow. Rhetorically, I ponder, if we could access the simulation's controls and witness time as rewritable script, would the arrow feel trivial, a mere setting to toggle, or would we value its unyielding whisper even more, cherishing the permanence it lends to our digital deeds? I incline toward deepened value, seeing it as the program's gift for authenticity, urging us to code lives of lasting impact. Personally, this echoes life's irreversible moments, words spoken in haste, bonds forged in time's current, teaching forgiveness and presence, ethically aligning with entropy's tide rather than fighting it futilely. Images arise fluidly, illuminating the abstract with tangible poetry. The universe as a vast holodeck, boundaries as force fields shimmering at the edges, where simulated stars twinkle from projected light while the vacuum hums with computational noise. A boiling sea of bits flipping in quantum registers. Fluctuations, glitches in the render, brief pops of unscripted potential birthing novelty. This lens demystifies without cheapening awe, portraying the simulation as a masterful creation, limits as features enhancing play. Philosophically, it parallels human illusions, social constructs as subroutines, personal identities as avatars, inviting deconstruction for growth. Ethically, it demands responsible gaming, avoiding exploits that harm co-players, seeking updates that benefit all. Doesn't this position us as both players and partial designers, tweaking our corner of the code through choices? Warmth blooms in this view, recalling late nights, coding simple programs, watching emergent patterns, a micro-simulation mirroring cosmic ethics, where small inputs yield complex beauty. Delving into anthropic depths, the principle suggests simulations favor conscious observers to justify the compute, us as the payoff for the run, ethically bound to maximize insight, perhaps by exploring the veil's edges through science. Nietzsche's loops as debug cycles, eternal testing for optimal ethics, affirming joy in the iteration. In practice, this inspires curiosity-driven lives, pursuing knowledge as probing the code, compassion as shared subroutine harmony. A personal reflection during a meditation retreat, the simulated feel of reality dissolved boundaries, revealing interconnected code. It ethically reoriented me toward unity, seeing others as fellow avatars. Time's whisper, entropy bound, hides substrate eternities, but hints at transcendence, enlightenment as hacking the arrow, or death as log out to higher levels. Rhetorically, does the veil mock agency, reducing us to scripted NPCs, or empower as conscious code, authoring within limits? Empowerment resonates, ethics as creative programming, images expand, simulation as a grand library, universes books on shelves. Our run a page turning irreversibly, vacuum the inkwell of potentials. Fluctuations? Footnotes birthing subplots. This enriches warmth in being co-authors, philosophically societal parallels, cultures as simulation mods, boundaries firewalls of tradition, ethics bridging with open source empathy. Plato's cave digitized, pixels as shadows, substrate the real, urging code cracking inquiry. Experiences like virtual reality sessions echo this, immersive yet bounded, teaching ethical navigation of illusions. Anecdote, collaborating on a digital art project, simulating worlds felt godlike yet humble. Ethically, it underscored power's responsibility, mirroring cosmic simulation. Nietzschean, affirm the loop, iterating toward ethical elegance. Technology as veil thinner, VR nearing holodeck fidelity, yet boundaries persist, mystery intact. Warmth, in simulation were meaningful data, ethically vital, finding purpose in the run. As these digital whispers fade, converging toward humanity's pivotal role in the woven cosmic fabric, I linger on the warmth this hypothesis offers. Far from dehumanizing, the veil invites playful ethics. Time's arrow, a guide to authentic coding, boundaries as prompts for wonder in our simulated dance. Drawing all these luminous threads together from the veiled singularity's intimate knot through the resilient spring of rebounds, the harmonious grazes of branes in the bulk, the effervescent froth of inflationary bubbles, to the shimmering veils of a potential simulation. Let's now center our reflections on the human heart at the core of this cosmic tapestry, where the unseen boundaries converge to illuminate our role as both humble participants and profound witnesses in the grand unfolding. I think of humanity not as peripheral spectators, but as the beating pulse of the universe evolved from those primal sparks to ponder, feel, and shape the narrative within our bounded realms. These limits, the dimensional confines, the horizons of isolation, the coded interfaces, don't diminish us, they exalt, framing our existence as a delicate dance amid infinities where every step echoes with potential meaning. Our reality, sculpted by what we cannot see, emerges as a stage exquisitely tuned for consciousness, urging us to move with intention, grace, and ethical fire. Personally, this synthesis feels like coming home after a long journey through shadowed landscapes, the warmth of recognition settling in. We are the cosmos awakening to itself, our questions and creations a response to the unseen's silent call. Pausing to let this holistic image breathe, I envision the entire cosmic weave as an eternal dance floor, with humanity as dancers mid-performance, rebounds as buoyant leaps, brain collisions as partnered twirls, bubble inflations as swirling expansions, and simulation veils as the subtle lighting that casts our forms in dramatic relief. The unseen boundaries serve as the floor's edges and the music's rhythm, guiding without dictating, allowing improvisation within constraints. Plato's cave, Nietzsche's returns, the Anthropic principle, they all converge here in a philosophical symphony. We are the prisoners turning toward the light, affirming eternal loops across multiverse variants, observers selected to render the setup meaningful. Why does this bounded dance resonate so deeply, stirring both vulnerability and empowerment? It acknowledges our fragility, a single dancer in a vast hall, blind to the full choreography, yet it ignites purpose, for in the limits, our movements gain significance, each gesture a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. In my own life, I've felt this rhythm acutely, periods of personal compression like losses or doubts, rebounding into creative surges, much like the universe's spring. It mirrors how unseen forces, memories, intuitions, shape my steps, ethically compelling me to dance with others in harmony rather than isolation. Can we ever master the full routine? Or does the unseen's mystery ensure the dance remains forever fresh, endlessly interpretive? It fosters an ethic of collaborative grace, reaching out to fellow dancers, co-creating beauty from the shadows. Ethically, this culmination of unseen boundaries weaves a profound mantle of responsibility around humanity, transforming us from passive figures into active stewards of the cosmic stage. If singularities set the spark, rebounds ensure endurance, branes link dimensions, bubbles multiply possibilities, and simulations code the rules, then our role as the conscious nodes in this network demands we honor the whole with vigilant care. Actions that degrade our environment echo as discordant notes, potentially rippling through brane vibrations or bubble horizons. Choices for justice affirm the anthropic fine-tuning, ensuring more observers can join the dance. Nietzsche's eternal return, splintered across these realms, becomes a clarion call. Affirm the cycle boldly, living as if every moment recurs infinitely, choosing love, equity, and sustainability to elevate the loop. The anthropic principle crowns this ethic. We exist to observe and thus to act, our awareness a sacred trust, compelling us to extend compassion beyond our bubble, imagining the unseen dancers in other realms. I feel a deep, resonant warmth in this imperative. It turns abstract cosmology into lived wisdom, urging daily practices like mindful consumption to preserve the stage, or fostering global dialogues to synchronize our steps. In times of societal strife, this perspective has steadied me, viewing conflicts as missteps in the dance, resolvable through ethical rebounds, building bridges across personal and cultural boundaries. What greater duty than to make the unseen's gift of existence a celebration of interconnected thriving? The arrow of time threading through all these veils adds a poignant urgency to our human dance, its forward whisper born from low entropy origins, be they singular compressions, inflationary smoothings, or programmed boots, driving entropy's rise and giving our performance direction. We can't rewind the steps already taken. Memories accumulate, choices solidify. The finale looms as expansions chill or simulations fade, yet the unseen hints at outer timelessness, bulk loops, bubble eternities, substrate edits, concealing resets that refresh the floor for new dancers. This boundary, by hiding those mechanisms, infuses our routine with linearity and stakes, compelling us to choreograph with foresight, nurturing relationships before time's arrow pulls them apart, innovating against decay to extend the dance's vitality. Rhetorically, I reflect, if we could glimpse the full score beyond the boundaries, the eternal returns, multiverse symphonies, would time's arrow feel burdensome, a scripted constraint, or would it heighten the ecstasy of each improvised turn, making our fleeting performance all the more luminous? I embrace the latter, seeing it as the unseen's generous design, ethically motivating us to fill the moments with purpose, turning potential tragedy into triumphant art. Personally, this has colored my approach to aging and legacy, embracing time's flow not with fear but with creative zeal, passing on steps that others might rebound from, a quiet, ethical inheritance. Images flow richly now, synthesizing the journey with accessible poetry, the cosmos as a grand ballroom, boundaries as mirrored walls, reflecting infinite dancers, us among them, while the vacuum boils like a lively orchestra pit, fluctuations as spontaneous improvisations birthing new moves, branes, flowing curtains, parting for collisions that syncopate the rhythm, bubbles, floating orbs where dances inflate and interconnect, simulations, the spotlight and sound system, veiling the technicians to preserve immersion. This vivid tapestry demystifies the unseen, portraying boundaries not as shackles but as elegant frames, enhancing the spectacle. Philosophically, it parallels the soul's inner dance, personal limits as steps in individuation, ethical growth emerging from unseen depths. Doesn't this elevate us to cosmic artists, weaving personal narratives into the universal score? Warmth radiates from this vision, recalling shared dances in life, weddings, festivals, where boundaries blur in collective joy, ethically reminding us to invite all to the floor. Delving deeper into the ethical synthesis, the anthropic principle positions humanity as the universe's self-reflective climax. Across singularities, rebounds, branes, bubbles, and codes, we're the emergence that ponders it all, duty-bound to ethical reciprocity, protecting the conditions that allowed our awareness. Nietzsche converges. Eternal returns across realms demand joyful affirmation, turning every boundary into opportunity for Übermensch-like transcendence. In application, this inspires holistic ethics, environmental policies as rebounding the planet's spring, social reforms as brain-bridging unity, scientific pursuits as bubble-probing curiosity, all while mindfully navigating simulation like tech ethics. A personal layer. Mentoring young thinkers feels like this, sharing the dance, ethically ensuring the next generation affirms the unseen's gifts. Time's arrow, entropy's gentle tyrant, whispers of finitude but also creation, urging us to counter disorder with ordered beauty, legacies that defy the fade. Rhetorically, do the veils confine our dance to solitude, or liberate it as a unique expression in the infinite ensemble? Liberation sings true, ethics as the choreography of freedom, images deepen, humanity as lead dancers, unseen partners, forces fates, guiding steps, vacuums boil as applause from the wings, fluctuations, encore sparks birthing encores. Philosophically, Plato's enlightened escape merges with Nietzschean will and anthropic witness, from cave to eternal affirmation, observing to act. Societal echoes, global challenges as ensemble missteps, ethics harmonizing the troupe. Experiences like community gatherings mirror this, boundaries softening in shared rhythm, warmth in collective ethics. Anecdote: at a stargazing event, feeling the cosmos dance through telescopes, connections formed like brain grazes, ethically affirming our shared wonder. Nietzschean. Yes to the night's return, bubbles of conversation inflating meaning. Technology amplifies. Telescopes as veil piercers, AI as dance partners, yet boundaries humble, preserving ethical depth. Warmth. In the unseen's embrace, humanity dances vibrantly, purpose profound. As this final reflection crests, synthesizing into quiet culmination, the unseen boundaries reveal themselves not as ends but as eternal invitations to dance boldly, ethically, with hearts attuned to the mystery. We've journeyed from cosmic edges to human essence, finding that what we cannot see shapes a reality rich with potential, singularities birthing unity, Rebounds teaching resilience, branes linking souls, bubbles multiplying wonder, simulations sparking creativity, Plato's light, Nietzsche's yes, Anthropic trust, they converge in our steps, time's arrow our tempo, entropy's rise our canvas. Let this inspire, embrace the limits as partners weaving lives of compassion, inquiry, and joy. In the grand dance, you're irreplaceable. May your movements echo through the unseen, illuminating infinities with human warmth. What greater synthesis than this call to purposeful being, turning boundaries into boundless inspiration?